Hello everyone, working on King Gidrah. Got some heads lined up right here. And one of the things I need to do before I get too far on is get the mouths painted up and put on there. I can mask the mouths off and get their panel lines taken care of. One problem I came up with though is this. Here's the bottom part of the mouth. Now if I zoom in on this, you can see there's pretty good detail in that mouth. There's ribbing, the round spots where the tongue attaches. Okay, that's not a mold mark, that's actually there on purpose. There's some pretty good detail inside that mouth. Okay? Now, let me get one of the heads and show you what we find inside the head. Nothing for detail. No rib mouth, no nothing. But a seam line going right down the center. Nice teeth on this boy. We need to fix that. So, what I'm doing is I mixed up some Aves. I'm going to cut it out in the same shape as the mouth and press it in there. One that'll hide the seam. And it's going to be a pretty thin layer. And then once it's in there, I'm going to etch some lines in it so it matches the ribbing here on the underside of the mouth. So I'm going to fix that to get the detail done on the mouth. I'll be back after I've done a little of that. My Aves has been sitting over here curing up for a little bit. I don't like working with it right when it's freshly mixed. It's way too soft and squishy. Give it a little bit of time and it gets a little bit more firm and easier to deal with. I also need to go wash these mouths to get whatever mold release off of them, because the Aves sticks better to clean plastic than it does a little bit of oil. So I'll be back after I've done some of that to let you guys see what it is. Okay, yes, you can see Godzilla parts on the table. That's one of the good things about having multiple models in my one entry. While one's sitting and curing, I can play with another. I told you I was going to try to get some textures back in King Gidrah's mouth. Well, I did this. Let's see if my camera is going to cooperate with a good zoom and pick that up, and it is. I put a layer of Aves in there, took one of my sculpting tools, and just marked out a pattern to match what I thought you would see inside of a mouth. There's head number one. This one came out with a better distinct pattern than head number one did. Okay, but you can see there's a pattern in there relating to their teeth, and we now have detail in the mouth on all of King Gidrah's heads that was not there with the original kit. So if anyone gets up close enough to look in the mouth, they will see a pattern across the top of his mouth as well as the bottom and a tongue. I have to let that sit overnight before I can paint that, but I am going to tape up King Gidrah in a little bit so I can get a look at what he looks like, and I can start planning out the diorama, because I have no idea how big this guy is going to be. And visually seeing it will help me plan the diorama a little bit. Diorama is not going to fit on my desktop here. I know that, because it's got to be around 30-36 inches long and about 25 to 30 inches deep. Not going to be small, unfortunately. These guys are too big for that, even at 1/350. And I haven't even started on the castle yet, but with some of the breakthroughs I'm having working with Aves tonight, I don't care. I'll get started on that castle pretty soon. So I'll be back. Did a preliminary tape up of King Gidrah so I can get an idea of what I'm getting into. A lot of seams that need to be fixed, but I'm not too worried about that, simply because I'm getting a good grip on how to work with Aves working on Godzilla. And Godzilla's got the easier seams of the two, in my opinion, because his seams are just random lines, and this thing is a diamond pattern scales. Very, very different. Did a tape up so I can get an idea of what it's going to look like. No heads on it. The heads have some Aves curing. And this gave me a good idea of how the tail's going to go together and whatnot. There were some extra pieces. We got 2 extra tail pieces right here and an extra neck piece. Now, as far as I can tell, I can use that extra neck piece to position the heads however I want. I use the longer piece in the center for the center neck. In the other pieces, there's one of them's like this, the other one's curved downward. This way I can have the 3 heads pointing in different directions. I think that's what that's for. The directions do show that you can put him in flight mode or in standing mode. I'm definitely doing standing mode. He's footless right now, so we could add some feet just to see what that looks like. I am not going to get the wings out and put the wings on him, however. That's going to come later. But I think if I get this done right, this is going to be one impressive looking kit. Because I've got a couple of I've got a vinyl copy of this, and the vinyl has nowhere near the detail this thing does. I think it's going to look really nice. So, let me pull the camera off. Nah, let's not pull the camera off. I think you guys can see it well enough there. I'll zoom in a little bit and move him so you can see what I've got going. Okay? I'm mainly taking the video right now so I have a reference as to how I put her together. I'm also going to take a couple of photos. That's exactly how I want it to look, the pose I want when I get her built. Alright, paintbrush and mouth. I'm painting. What I'm doing is I'm working on the mouths. I've already painted up Godzilla's mouth. I'm using a dark color, moving towards progressively lighter. And then I think I'm going to do a wash to bring up detail. I don't know if anyone's going to actually be able to see in the mouth, but hey, that's what I'm doing. Now, a couple of things. I think I showed this earlier. I'm going to show it again now. No, I didn't. I remember showing you the beginning of this, but I didn't show you what I did. Okay? Right here, we got King Gidrah's head. Let's zoom in. Now, I know my camera doesn't like too much zoom, so I have to be careful. The inside of his mouth had zero detail. None. I put some aves in there and did some sculpting. And I think the detail came out really nice. And you might actually be able to see that because I have the bottom half of his mouth here. And when you put them together, it's going to look like this, holding his mouth on there. His teeth are gold, by the way, which it really freaked me out when I was looking at the videos today. You get in the right angle, you'll be able to see that detail in the mouth. And you can see his tongue in there. I'm working on painting that up. Here's the underside of his mouth, if I can get it and hold it still long enough. There's the underside of his mouth. Gosh, this is hard to hold where the camera's going to pick it up. There we go. There's the underside of his mouth. The tongue is a separate piece. I glued that in earlier today. And the inside of the mouth is all getting painted because once I put them together, I'm not going to be able to get to those mouths to do any painting. So that's where I'm at with this. The paintbrush was in hand because I'm painting mouths. It's going to take me a couple days to get the mouths painted up right, but that's okay because I'm not where I need to put them together with the heads and the necks and stuff. I've done some work on King Gidrah last night, and I'll bring that up in a little bit. Back in a bit.